Hi, Kieran here. The video I have for you today is just pretty much a sky rescue here of an image I took in a recent trip to Cape Le Grand in Western Australia. There was a scene on a beach, Lucky Bay, which is beautiful white sand and turquoise water, and I couldn't help myself but take lots of photos, but unfortunately I had my camera out quite a lot, and there was a lot of just little tiny droplets of spray everywhere. And I had a circular polarizer on with a wide-angle lens, and I didn't have the polarizer in the right spot for this particular shot, so I've ended up with this really dark patch of blue sky and just spray all over this low detail area of sky here. So when I first saw this shot, I thought, it's terrible, it's unusable, and I probably should just scrap it. But I wanted to try something a bit different and maybe try and rescue it and make it a bit usable again. So, a couple of quick things about the image. It's a 40-second image shot at f/16 and ISO 50 at 16 millimeters. It's got a bit of sensor dust around, which we'll try and get rid of some of it. Hopefully you'll be able to see it on your screens as well. I'll easily be able to see that one. So we might just try and get rid of some of that now. But we won't spend too long on it because the main focus is going to be just the sky. So I'm not going to worry about some other little sensor spots here. And there's some hot pixels in there as well, but we won't worry about them too much. So we've got our sky here with some clouds and some nice detail through the sand here. And let's bring this into Photoshop and see what we can do about this horrendous embarrassment of a sky. So now I've got it into Photoshop. The first thing I want to do is localize the sky from the rest of the image. And to do that, I'm going to grab my quick selection tool, or by pressing W, and just draw over the sky. And Photoshop does a pretty good job at working out what I actually want to select, but it's still got a couple of little of the islands down here, so I'm just going to hold down Alt to remove the majority of that from the selection. Doesn't need to be too accurate at this point. We'll have a look later at how it's actually working. But for the moment, that's pretty good. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So to turn this, well, what I want to do with this selection is turn it into a layer mask on a group. So I'm going to click the group button, then click the layer mask button. And so that's added the layer mask to this group. So anything white means that anything in the group will show through. Anything black means it won't show through, and it's just going to show the underlying layers. So in this group, I'm going to create a new blank layer. And on this layer, I want to create a gradient that kind of matches a natural sky. So it's going to be darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. So with my brush selected, I'm going to hold down Alt to select two areas of the sky, one dark and one light. So I'll select a dark area from somewhere up here. I don't want to go too dark because that's probably is a bit too dark. So somewhere a bit further back, about there, looks good. Then I'm going to press X to switch to my background color and choose a lighter area of the sky. So it's a bit muddy down there, but I think it does match the natural look of the sky, so I'll select down there. So now I've got two colors, a light blue and a dark blue. Now if I press G or go to my gradient tool, with the white, or the lighter blue to the darker blue, I'm just going to draw a gradient from the horizon to the top of the image, holding down Shift to make sure it's nice and straight. And there we go, a nice blue sky. But we're not done yet, of course, because that looks crunchy, terrible, fake, and rubbish. But we can make it look a lot better by using some more of Photoshop's tools, specifically the blend diff function. So if I go to my blending options on this layer, by either right-clicking and go to blending options, or you can just double-click on the layer, we're going to have a look at this blend diff area here, and specifically the underlying layer. So anything between these two sliders means that the layer that is active is actually showing through. But what we want to do is bring back some of the clouds, and the clouds are quite light. So if we start dragging this slider over to the left, it means that anything brighter than, or to the right of this slider, so anything brighter, is going to shine through from the underlying layer. And in this case, it is these clouds. So I'm just going to bring that back until you can start to see it affecting the blue of the sky. So you can see there, down here, it's starting to bring back some of that sky. So just bring it back until some of the clouds are coming through. But then if I hold down Alt, I can separate these sliders and blend in that effect there. So I don't want to go too far. If I go too far, I'll start to see some of the muddiness of the water droplets come through again. So I want to keep that relatively far back and just find a nice balance between the clouds and having that sky shine through again. So somewhere about there looks pretty good. It still looks a bit weird down here, but we'll be able to fix that up in a minute. So I'll hit OK on that. And that's already done a pretty good job at getting rid of all of our issues that we've had. But we've just had another issue come up with creating the gradient, and that's some of the banding in the sky. And it might be a bit hard to see on a compressed video, but there is some banding through here that I want to get rid of and have it look a bit more natural. And to do that, I'm going to add some noise to the image. So if I go to, with the gradient selected, if I go to Filter, Noise, and Add Noise, I'll be able to add some Gaussian monochromatic noise just to try and get rid of some of that banding. So I might go a bit further than what I normally would, just so it does show up. So around 0.1, it doesn't really do anything. Around 0.5, it's starting to get rid of that banding, but I reckon around 1% or even 2%. 2% might be a bit too much. So let's just try 1%. It might be a bit of overkill, but it should help to just show the effect that's taking place there on that sky and getting rid of that banding. So you can see before and after that noise is being added. So I'll just click OK on that. We'll zoom back out. As I said, it looked a bit weird down here. So I'm just going to go back to my layer mask here, select my brush tool, set it to black, and have a lighter opacity and a soft edge. So don't want it too hard, want it nice and soft. And I'll just start brushing black over there until it looks a bit more like a natural horizon. So the blend diff's done a pretty good job, but anywhere where it looks a bit odd, we'll just paint that back there. So now our layer mask looks a bit more like that. So that's pretty good. You might see some banding just from the way Photoshop is rendering the smaller magnification, but that's okay. And just for the hell of it, I might add a bit of vibrance and saturation just to make it a little more blue to match these nice colors down here. So let's have a look at our before and after. So that's our before, quite dirty, muddy looking sky, and that's our after. It's not perfect. You can still play around with it a bit, maybe try a darker blue or some different blues to match how you want it to look a bit more. But you can see the idea there, cleaning up a lot of the sky, making it a lot more natural of a gradient while still retaining all the detail through the clouds there. So you don't always have to throw away an image. Have a think about what you can do in Photoshop to try and fix any potential errors that you've got, especially in-camera embarrassing errors like water droplets and not having your polarizer in the right spot, but maybe you can save it in Photoshop. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to see any of my other tutorials, you can check out kieranstone.com to see some full edits from straight out of the camera raw to the finished product, and also check out my YouTube channel for other little short tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.